Well, in terms of what the president ought to be doing, I don't think that the sort of $825 billion and that sort of thing, I'm not real excited. I don't think it'd help much, but I don't think it probably hurt a whole lot either. But in terms of what the president should be doing, is he should be telling people that we are not going to allow the economy to drift into something like the Great Depression. We're not going to have a period of declining prices, and we're not going to have a period of rising prices like we had during the 1970s, and that we're going to have a plan to control federal government expenditures, and that we are going to reduce the size of the budget deficits and essentially reverse the policies. And this, is something that we voted for change. That something would be a good idea. That we are going to reverse the big spending, big deficit policies of George W. Bush. That's what I'd like to see the president tell. The other advice I would give him, as I've talked about it, is to remove the lending regulations and lending institutions that are essentially still giving people incentives to take out loans that they are high-risk loans. Let me just leave it at that. And the Fed, by the way, I'd like to see the chairman of the Federal Reserve give the same talk. We are not going to allow either a deflation to take place or inflation to take place. Now, I've heard a good bit about the deflationary side from the Federal Reserve, but I haven't heard much about... See, the Fed thinks they can time this thing so that they're injecting all this reserves into the system. They're stimulating, and it will lead to a stimulus of the economy, and they think they can time it in terms of withdrawing those funds in such a way that they won't throw the economy back into another recession soon after it recovers. But history indicates that they're not good at doing that. But I'd like to see the Fed say, that we are not going to have either inflation or deflation. Our goal, and the single thing the Fed can control, is the general level of prices. In the long run, that's all they can control. And I'd like to see the Fed say, focus, as I think they did in the first, let's say 10 years, certainly first decade of the Greenspan era, that the efficiency, and former Congressman McCullough, you were there at the time, that that the emphasis in the late 80s and on through the 90s was we're going to keep the inflation rate low and steady. That was their message. And they did that from 87 on through 98 and 99. Where they started to get off track is when the Fed began manipulating the economy. And that started a bit with the policy leading up to the 2000 that actually contributed to the 2000 recession.